Welcome to a deep dive. Today, we're sailing into some surprisingly deep waters with a character many of us probably think we know pretty well.
Yeah, character often just seen for laughs.
Exactly. We're talking about Brook from One Piece. The musician, the skeleton, the king of skull jokes.
Yo-ho-ho. But what if that's just scratching the surface?
Right. We're looking at some analysis today, drawing from observations across the manga and really leaning into insights from a YouTube analysis called We Don't Actually Know Who Brook Is. And it makes a pretty bold claim.
It really does. The argument is that Brook, far from being just a gag, might actually have the deepest and densest story of any Straw Hat.
Which is wild to think about. And crucially, this analysis says his hidden past, his unique abilities, they aren't just background details anymore. They're becoming absolutely vital now for the main story.
Especially as we're heading into the final saga.
So our mission here is to unpack that. Why has Brook been, well, kind of sidelined for so long? Why would Oda keep his story so close to the chest? And what does his, frankly, strange journey through the arcs tell us about why he's suddenly so important?
It's a great question. I mean, how does a character who's already lived a full life, who's on his second go-around, hold secrets that are only just now becoming critical? It suggests there's a lot more under that afro than just bone.
Okay, let's start with that initial feeling, the way he was treated. Think back to Thriller Bark when he joined. What did we really know about him then?
Not much, really. I mean, his original dream, why he first became a pirate, who he was before the Rumba Pirates, it was all very vague.
Yeah, it felt like Oda was deliberately keeping that first life, hidden. And for ages afterwards, he was often just the walking gag character. The jokes landed, but the depth wasn't always there compared to others.
The argument we're looking at today suggests this wasn't just like an accident. It was intentional. Because Brook is different. He's the one Straw Hat who's already done it all, lived a full life.
He's on round two.
Exactly. He's not a work in progress in the same way the others were when they joined, chasing that first big dream.
That makes sense. And it explains why his introduction felt different. He seemed almost underdeveloped from the start, didn't he?
Even in Thriller Bark, which you'd think would be his arc.
Right.
He wasn't really the main focus. His backstory, the whole tragic Rumba pirate's tale, it was incredibly moving, but it was sort of squeezed in right at the end.
Almost like an epilogue, yeah. After the main fight with Moria was all wrapped up.
Compare that to, Arlong Park for Nami or Enies Lobby for Robin.
Sure.
Their pasts were the absolute core of the arc. Brooks wasn't treated that way. Maybe Jinbei is a bit different too, but he had tons of story before joining.
And the analysis points out something striking in the, 600 plus chapters after Thriller Bark? There was surprisingly little added emotional depth for Brook, with one key exception.
Now, Whole Cake Island was huge for him, no doubt. He had amazing moments.
Standing up to Big Mom, facing her down. Incredible.
Smashing the Mother Carmel photo, earning that Soul King title from her. Those showed his bravery, his value. But the analysis makes a good point. Cool moments aren't quite the same as adding, depth to his inner world or his past.
So what was that one exception for depth?
It was after Pedro's sacrifice. That moment of grief, of pain. He was written like a real person feeling lost, not just the quirky skeleton. You saw the man under the bones, briefly?
Ah, right. I remember that. It felt significant.
It did, but then it kind of vanished again. In Wano, he felt like he was back to being the quirky corpse, often sidelined.
Off screen.
Put in a well. Literally.
Yeah, what was he doing down there? And the analysis even mentions uncertainty about his role in parts of Egghead, too.
And get this, another point raised is that Brook, after like 700 chapters in the story, is the only Straw Hat who's never had a proper main one-on-one fight featured in the manga.
That's actually true. Wow.
Highly unusual for a main crewmate in this kind of story.
So yeah, you could forgive people for thinking maybe he was just a bonus character. Maybe created just to tie up that Laboon plotline from way back.
But the argument is that feeling, that was the misdirection. That shallow portrayal was hiding something much deeper, deliberately.
Okay, so the shallow portrayal was the point, in a way.
Kind of, yeah. Because his real story, his true importance, comes from a completely different time. Over 50 years ago, his second life is the key.
Right, let's get into that. This is where the theory gets really juicy. The analysis argues Brook wasn't just some musician in his fourth life. He was likely a military leader from a specific kingdom.
Okay, now think about the reverie. that big meeting of kings in Marahoa.
Right, where all the royalty gathers.
Kings don't go alone, do they? They bring their best soldiers, the royal guard, their military commanders.
Okay, I see where this is going.
The logical step the analysis proposes
Hmm.
is that if Brook was a military leader back then, he almost certainly would have gone with his king to Marahoa, probably multiple times, for different reveries.
Just like we saw recently with the current kings bringing their guards.
Exactly. And that connection, visiting Marahoa all those decades ago, that's likely why Brook knew about the God's Nights.
Wow. That line suddenly makes so much more sense. It wasn't just a throwaway comment.
Not at all. The implication is huge. Brook has seen things. He holds secrets about the world government, about Marahoa from 50 years ago. Secrets kept hidden for a reason.
So that's why Oda kept his past so vague and focused on the jokes.
That's the argument. Revealing his full backstory earlier, it would reveal too much about Marahoa, the world back then, the Knights. Before the story was ready for it, he was the hidden link to the past, right there on the ship.
Buried under skull jokes so we wouldn't look too closely until now.
Precisely. Until the time was right.
Man, this really makes you think, what did happen to his kingdom? Does it even still exist? And this character, Gunko, could she be connected? Like a princess from back then. What was the world like 50 years ago? Celestial dragon hunting, rocks, young Roger. Brook might know so much.
Exactly. But his past isn't the only piece of the puzzle. There's his other unique role, the musician.
Which, let's be honest, sometimes feels like the least essential role on a pirate crew, right? But Luffy insisted.
He absolutely insisted. And the analysis argues that wasn't just Luffy being Luffy. Music has real value, real power in one piece.
And the symbolism here, as the analysis points out, is kind of genius. The musician of the crew is undead, kept alive only by his soul.
It's not subtle when you think about it. It creates this direct, profound link between music and the soul, which seems to be a growing theme.
But so music isn't just like fun background tunes, it embodies deeper things.
Freedom, joy, harmony, adventure. The analysis suggests it represents what makes us human. And having a skeleton embody that, it's powerful irony.
We actually saw this power in action, didn't we? Whole Cake Island.
Yes, literally, not figuratively. His music could affect souls. He was the perfect counter to Big Mom's soul fruit powers. He messed with her homies.
And she called him Soul King.
Exactly. That moment is framed as major foreshadowing in this analysis.
Because the idea of the soul is becoming more central now.
Very much so. Especially this theme of resisting the celestial dragons, the self-proclaimed gods. The message seems to be building that, you can crush bodies, control minds, but the human spirit, the soul, that remains intact. No power can truly break it.
Like with Kuma recently. Driven by something deep down despite everything.
Kuma's a perfect example. And now we're seeing it with Gung-Ho, too. Apparently a puppet of Emu, but something her original self is still in there, fighting back.
Okay, so Gung-Ho, that lingering part of her,
Yeah.
it's being awakened by Brook.
That's the connection the theory makes, yeah. Which leads us directly to where Brook's story is probably heading.
This is where it all comes together.
Yeah.
The analysis is pretty clear. Elbeth. Elbeth is looking like it's going to be Brook's big moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
likely set to be his greatest arc, where he finally steps up not just as a gag character, but as a central figure.
And it's because his past and his music are both crucial now.
Exactly. His music isn't just background anymore. It's predicted to be the actual key to resolving the Elbeth arc.
And Gumho is central to this. She's maybe the antagonist defector for this arc, like Viola or Pudding.
That's the role she seems poised to fill, yes. Trapped by Emu, but with that flicker of her true self remaining.
Which is being awakened thanks to Brook. How?
Well, the idea is that even before Elbeth, her soul was already being moved by his music. Remember her contradictory taste?
Yeah.
Drawn to his New World idea sound.
Ah, right. That showed something was stirring deep down.
Exactly. And now, the analysis points out this beautiful symmetry. The same musician who captivated her years ago, maybe as a child if the timeline fits.
It is reaching her again now. His music cutting through Emu's control.
Cutting through to reach the one thing Emu couldn't fully control. Her soul.
So only Brook can do this. His music is the specific key.
That's the argument. No one else has that specific connection or that soul-affecting power. Only Brook's music can reach Gun-Ho and maybe bring her back fully.
So his music becomes a massive plot point. Like Nami's navigation was for getting places, or Sanji's cooking was for, well, saving lives and diplomacy.
Precisely. The Elbeth story might literally hinge on a major musical performance by Brook.
Wow. The analysis even floats another idea, doesn't it, about Emu?
Yeah, it's speculative but interesting, since Luffy probably can't just punch Emu out yet. could Brook's music play a role? Maybe weaken Emu somehow by affecting their soul, like he did with Big Mom?
That's a wild thought,
Mm.
but the immediate focus is gung-ho.
Right, and she hasn't heard his music live yet, not in her current state. The theory's emphatic. A
Yeah.
live performance by the Soul King himself that's absolutely guaranteed to be the trigger the moment the real gung-ho returns.
It feels like the final saga is really leaning into these core human elements. Egghead had love and memory versus tech. Elbaf seems set up for music, freedom, the spirit, versus this godlike control.
Yeah, things that can't be truly taken away.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've gone from Brook, the gag character, to potentially a former military leader with hidden knowledge of the world from 50 years ago.
And possessing this unique, vital power to touch souls through music.
His hidden past explains things like knowing about the gods' nights, while his music makes him indispensable for arcs about freeing the spirit, which Elbaf seems to be setting up.
And it all reinforces this final saga theme. The power of things like music, represented the human spirit, can stand against anything, even supposed gods.
It leaves you wondering, though, considering that deep past, that first life 50 years ago, and the soul music, what other secrets might still be locked away inside the man Brook once was? His first life might hold keys to far more than just Elbaf. It could unlock pieces of the world's fundamental history. Makes you think, doesn't it?